Gentleman's time has expired. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Colorado.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to again bring your attention, Mr. Speaker, to Section 215 and the difficulty with which we in this body and the American people as a whole have with regard to exercising oversight over abuse of government authority. An example that I gave earlier, the American Library Association confirmed that the federal government went into a library and asked for the list of everybody who checked out a book on Osama bin Laden. Now, recipients of 215 orders can't even disclose that they received such an order to anybody but their attorneys. So what ability do we have as the People's House to exercise oversight about whether there are abuses? It's been brought up by several people on the other side, my colleague from Wisconsin, oh, there aren't abuses. Well, if there is a secretive process that prevents us from knowing about abuses, how are we to know, in fact, whether there are abuses? I also want to discuss Section 206 that we're discussing the renewal of here today, the provision of the bill that allows the government to conduct the roving wiretaps. This allows the government to obtain surveillance warrants that don't even specify the person or the object that's being tapped. It could involve tapping an entire neighborhood of telephones that a suspect might use, an unnamed suspect might use or might not use. There's nothing even to specifically prohibit it from being an entire city of telephone calls being tapped. And we don't know how it's been used. The Fourth Amendment clearly states that warrants need to specify the person and places to be seized and searched with particularity. Mr. Speaker, we began this session of Congress by reading the United States Constitution, including the Fourth Amendment, here on the House of Representatives. We did that to help make sure that the executive branch or the legislative branch don't have unfettered power to decide single-handedly who and how to search private citizens and seize their properties. The Founding Fathers were rightfully worried about the possibility of the central government issuing general warrants that would give it far-reaching power to spy on its citizens and intervene in their private lives. We should honor the Founding Fathers' clear wishes expressed in our Constitution instead of authorizing our federal government this kind of power. Now, the justification used for this provision is that the government needs to have the ability to spy on a suspect as they move from phone to phone. Now, no one objects to that authority when the security of the American people are at stake, but that doesn't mean that the government shouldn't have to specify who they're going to spy on and under what conditions. In fact, under federal criminal law, the government's already required to state either the person or the place that's subject to the wiretap. It's these sorts of common sense revisions that I think we could achieve bipartisan consensus on to provide a longer term stability with regard to the necessary provisions of the PATRIOT Act. The final section that will be reauthorized in the bill, Section 6001, deals with the quote-unquote lone wolf provisions, which were alluded to by the last two speakers, which allow secret surveillance of non-citizens in the U.S., even if they're not connected to any terrorist group or foreign power. Now, this authority is only granted in secret courts, and again threatens our understandings of the limits of our federal government's investigatory powers within the borders of our own country. It blurs the line between domestic national security and foreign intelligence. Now, it's clear that we allow a process to improve this. My friends on the other side of the aisle say that they're worried about the growth of government. Yet in spite of all the rhetoric about how the government is trying to take over your lives, their fifth bill under a rule, actually gives the government the ability to spy on innocent Americans. No wonder so many Republicans joined so many Democrats in voting against this bill earlier this week. I urge all of my colleagues who are worried about the unchecked growth of the state, anyone who seriously believes in protecting the rights and liberties of Americans, or anyone who simply thinks that we need to take some time to seriously look at these issues and debate them, to vote no on this bill, to force a discussion of these issues rather than vague promises of future hearings or future markups to improve this bill. Let's accelerate that timeline, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that the concerns of the American people, to help protect what it means to be an American, what is so close to our identity as Americans, protecting our individual liberties as according to the Founding Fathers articulated in our Constitution, we can reconcile that with the need to protect the American people safe, and let us begin that work